Hey, welcome back. Man, are you a poet? Well, our next guest is, and he's good. Do you ever say, I could write poems? Yeah? Well, why aren't you doing it? This man is and did, please meet Jack Powers. Jack.
How are you, Vinny? Thank you for having me here.
A pleasure. You have written a book, and this is a big achievement for you because you've always wanted to do it. You wished you could do it, and you did it. When did you first start writing poetry at all?
I didn't start till an adult. I didn't like poetry when I was young.
Really?
A lot of it was the poems were kind of old, and a lot of it was there was someone telling me what it meant. So I started writing. I recently retired after 38 years of teaching.
Wow.
So I wanted teaching. I was teaching a special ed class. The kids didn't write very well. I had to figure out how to help them become writers, and so I began writing with them.
Yeah,
and we told each other
I've been
stories.
teaching also 35 years. I taught for 35 years, and when I first started, I was so head straight into poetry, and I just loved to watch kids get turned on by it because it always fascinated me when I said, all right, this session is over, and we're moving into poetry. And I got like 25. Oh, yeah. And I said, wait a minute. Where did this start? When did you? Why would you say, well, poetry? Wait till you see what we're going to do. We're going to listen to rock music. We're going to watch slides that maybe I shouldn't even be showing you. But
that's a key right there with what were the middle school? I shouldn't even be showing you this. That's a way to get them to pay attention right away.
That's the real. I'm going to show you. I have a slide of a dead rat. We're going to write a poem about that dead rat. And the kids are like, "Are you serious? All right, go ahead. Let's do it." And then they're ready. And that's the thing, that we have to sometimes unteach people things that they've learned.
Right.
And unfortunately, there's just so much. Now, I was an English teacher, and it always fascinated me that my job was like to give a taste testing. So you introduce a writer to a kid. If the kid didn't like that writer, then he dismissed that type of writing. So if you give him a poem that he didn't like, he hated poetry.
Right.
Yo, that's one poem.
Yep. You got to find the right poem, right poet.
The right poem, the right poet. And I had kids reading who never read before because I introduced them to the right writer.
Yep.
And then they go, whoa, I hate reading, but okay, I'll read that.
Yep.
And that, and that's what it was. So what kind of poetry finally made you say, I don't hate this?
I think more kind of personal. I loved stories. I mean, initially we just wrote stories with the kids, personal stories, and then fiction, and then I remember a poem by David Wagner called "My Physics Teacher," and I remember at the end thinking, "Oh, that's funny. I could do funny." So I like funny stories. I had took a class last summer before last from Diane Getch, a poet, and she said her goal is I want to break the reader's heart. Wow. And I want to make them laugh first and then break their heart.
Wow, yes.
Ideally.
That's great.
Yeah.
See, and that's, it's the approach. I remember when I always believed that I was going to be a writer. I felt it inside of me. I knew it. But when I got to college, and I was doing black literature, and I was introduced to Richard Wright and James Baldwin and some of these writers, I was like, whoa, writers can do that?
Yeah, Native Son.
You can, yeah.
That's an amazing
Native
book.
Son, where he suffocates a girl with a pillow, trying to keep her quiet.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's Bigger Thomas. Some of those amazing things. And I realized that some of the wonderful literature, I mean, The Gold Bug by Edgar Allan Poe. Who was it? Maybe. No, Robert Louis Stevenson? I don't know. Too many years ago. Yeah. But I do remember that it was literature that I didn't 100% identify with.
Right.
And it wasn't me. Well, when I did start realizing that real life, like rats in a room, getting into a crib where a baby's sleeping, you know, some of these wild things about
stuff.
real life.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't grow up in a mansion. I grew up in a city street, and it was city life.
Right.
So once I realized that writing comes from you, not the world, it comes from your world.
Right.
So that opened up a lot of doors for me.
Yeah.
So you started writing at a later year.
Yeah. So I was an art major in college, painting major in college.
Oh,
And
okay.
when I started teaching, taught special ed initially, and I was teaching them everything, and I wasn't prepared. So I went back to get certified in English and math, and I learned, went to Bard College as an institute of teaching and learned a lot about writing with the students. They also shared some great poems, and that was it. I think good models, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Writing a lot, writing where one that you don't have to share everything, because then you're free to kind of roam and experiment. And also as a teacher to find, I had a drawing teacher years ago just said, find one good line in a writing, in a drawing. And I think it's true for writing as well, that, you know, we tend to see what we're not doing. Students often need to just see that line, that's a great line, that's a great image.
Part of my teaching years were during the, get ready for this, whole language era.
Yeah.
Well, I was the director of writing for the district, and it was the whole language era, and a lot of the teachers were basic English teachers, teachers who believed in grammar first.
They've been teaching phonics forever. And,
yeah,
you were ripping that out
so much.
Right.
And to get them to blend the ideas of whole language, of thematic teaching, was very difficult. And it was also the era of journals, where kids kept journals. And I made my kids write every single day in that journal. Every class began with journal writing or journal reading. And these kids were writing things that they didn't know they could write.
Right.
And I said to them, if you write something that I can't see, staple the page shut.
Yeah.
And they said, then nobody has to read it but me?
Yeah.
I said, absolutely. It isn't for me, it's for you.
Yeah.
And some of them got it. So you then began writing. Now, was it after you retired, or did you?
No, I mean, I'm writing more frequently, certainly, since I retired. But I have just tried to put myself in situations where I had to write, take courses. I was a fellow of the Connecticut Writing Project, and we formed a writing group in 1985. We're still meeting 34 years later. Group of teachers, half of them are retired now. And I'm in another group of professors that I meet. Both groups meet once a month, and then I take classes. We mentioned the Hudson Valley Writers Center earlier. I'm taking a fiction class right now as I revise a novel. And every summer I would take a class.
So you are doing fiction writing now?
Well, I originally went to Sarah Lawrence and got an MFA in fiction.
Wow.
And then once my kids hit a certain age, I just didn't have time to keep a novel in my head. I could keep a poem in my head.
Yeah.
And I went back for poetry and have an MFA from Sarah Lawrence for poetry. But now I'm retired. My kids are off on their own adventures, and I can return to
time to write and find out who you are.
Right. And also have the time to work on longer pieces. So I'm working on a novel, and I'm also working on a
You want to tell me a little bit about that novel?
It's a young adult novel. It's
Great.
It's kind of a the main character is has a group of friends, and they are doing a senior prank to fill a pool with Jell-O as their big hurrah. And the narrator is kind of the second banana, and the leader of the group, dad died. He's sort of coming apart, and it's about trying to save him without giving up the prank, which you know on page 1 he doesn't succeed. So in a way it's kind of like about survivor guilt. If someone,
Yeah.
when someone
Yeah.
dies, you wonder, was that on purpose? What did I
Yeah.
should have done? But it's funnier than it sounds.
One of my masters was in reading diagnostics.
Yeah.
And my thesis paper was about bibliotherapy. The fact that writing could be therapy
Yeah.
for students. And if they can find characters who are little like them, or maybe having the same situation that they are having, and find a solution, or even find out what not to do, it would be very important.
Yeah, there are a lot of great young adult books.
Oh, wonderful.
You
know,
get to
again,
learn through experience without having to pay any of the consequences.
Yeah,
you
know,
can put
I
yourself
grew up
another
in
world.
the Judy Blume, S.E. Hinton era, where books were important to help kids realize what real life is. And for me, it was that was my experience. That what I found out was that people were writing about real things.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a Little House on the Prairie. I didn't grow up in a prairie.
Right. Outsiders was great for that.
Oh,
right.
Outsiders was a wonderful book.
I think initially I wrote this book, it's called Wink, for the students I had at the time who were had a lot of behavior issues. They were a bunch of stoners, but they needed a book that they could see was about their world.
Young adult literature is my thing. My first book was Kiss the Candy Days Goodbye. There you go.
This is my goal someday. I need a couple more shelves.
Yeah, there you go.
I need
when
a very
you can put them
small
on two
bookcase
shelves,
at this
you know
time.
you've been busy.
Yeah.
But that's what I do. This is about diabetes. This is about a kid who can see ghosts. This is about a kid who had AIDS and was ostracized. It's all about the things that kids face.
Right.
I lived with that. I lived with that for 30 years. I watched kids suffer things, feelings in life situations that makes it difficult.
Right.
And it's just crucial that
There's
we
also
reach
an
these
opportunity for them to see lives very different than their own.
Yeah,
to go
without
just,
traveling.
Right.
You could do it from your living room.
Right. To see people who seem really different and realize how much you have in common and how much you can empathize.
And to know that. I mean, it was a little different era then. Now you have Netflix and all these. The kids can watch any one of 1,000 shows any night of the week.
Right. And some of them are great. Some of them do do that same thing.
But back in the day,
that was
they had to read.
Yeah.
And
they can
it was
still
important to give them that kind of thing. So
Yep.
I'm glad you're doing that.
Yep.
So you've written some poems, and
Right.
they're based on themes that you are passionate about. So share one, Jack.
Okay. So my book of poetry, everybody's vaguely familiar, is essentially a memoir in verse, I would say, like a lot of first books, right? And so I'm going to read just a couple, if that's okay. So,
yeah, that's more than okay.
One is kind of gets to, we'll say, an early and a late. Okay, so this one is called Family Vacation, 1965. In Providence, they put Nanny between us to stop the punch wars I was losing to Donnie, though I would never admit it until my bruised and battered bicep fell off my shoulder. Even then I wouldn't cry, wouldn't give Donnie the satisfaction of knowing he'd won. Wouldn't give my parents an excuse to move me into the way back where Ellen read, surrounded by luggage, or between them in front where Chrissy bobbed her head like some dashboard Virgin Mary, smiling like she never did anything wrong, which isn't true since that's why she was sitting there in the first place. Now I felt sorry for Nanny, on her first vacation to the Cape, trapped between bored 10-year-old me and more bored 13-year-old Donnie. We could only stare out the window for so long before the monotony drove us to team up and start watching her lips, saying what she said at the same time she said it. Until she begged, "Please, boys, stop, it's not funny." And we begged along until my father swung his arm over the seat and threatened, "Don't make me pull over," slapping blindly with his hand as my mother pleaded, "Please, Don, watch the road." And the car swung back and forth in traffic like a dog straining against the leash. Then Dad slammed on his brakes, swerved into the line for the Cape exit, and we all panted in relief and excitement, as if returning from our wild selves, glad to have survived again. until at the Bourne Bridge, cars backed up at the circle, the roofs piled high with coolers, bikes, and beach chairs. Donnie asked if I wanted to see who could hit the softest. And I reached across Nanny and brushed his bicep, and he reached across and clocked me, knuckle twisting to reach the bone, and as I cried out, he smiled and said, "You win."
So, real life.
Real life, yes. My brother would say that I might have changed just a little bit.
Yeah, just stretch a little bit here and
You got
there.
what it felt like, you know.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's another thing, you know. Kid came to me and he said, "Mr. Dacquino, how can I write a book that's exciting if my life is boring?"
Right.
And I said, "Listen to me. It's not about what is, it's about what if."
Yeah. Yep. What if is big.
Yeah.
I say that said like that advice to write what you know is very incomplete advice. I think you start with what you know.
There
and
you
then
go.
imagine the rest.
Yeah,
And
or
that
be
what if
inspired
is-
by what you know.
Right.
I tell a kid, I said, "You remember the time that the bully next to you opened the locker on your head and you didn't accidentally, out of anger, you pushed him? Do you remember that?" He said, "I never did that." I said, "Yeah, but do you feel it?
Yeah.
What would happen if you accidentally opened the locker on the bully next to you and hurt him?" He said, "Oh my God." I said,
Yep.
"I see you.
There's-
I see
yep.
the wheels turning. You understand what it could feel like.
Yeah.
Use that. Use what you know,
Right.
and combine that with what you
Can
what
imagine.
could imagine,
Right.
what could happen.
And don't
And
let the truth get in the way of a good
Don't
story.
let the truth
That's what
get
I
in
was
the
told
way. Some of the things some of the things in the books I've written, I could swear are true.
Yeah.
I don't think
They're
have.
true. Yeah. They're
But-
true now.
But they're true now.
Yeah.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Give me another one.
All right. So here's one from later in life. Bonehead. My mother signed notes in my high school lunch bag, "Love Bonehead," long after we could talk of love. She laughed at the sound of the word, the cartoon image, and love elevated Bonehead to a tender ache that reached across the gap from weary mother to leery teen. She hated lousy and meal, but to her Bonehead sounded gentler than idiot, dope, moron, cretin. Although dope acquired a softness when my father, deep in his dementia, asked after a long day of song and cake and tears from my 5-year-old, "Whose birthday is it?" And my mom, a skeleton herself after a year and a half of waking to find him dressed in 3 polo shirts on damp July nights or hiding the markers so he'd stop writing the names and the photos of the grandchildren, said, "It's Will's, you dope." And we all laughed at the exhausted appropriateness. Too tired for Bonehead, she took it up a notch, and we all appropriated the word to use when loved ones wore us down to the bone.
So, when you read that poem, what do you see, Jack?
Oh, I can still see the image of the biggest is that moment at my son's birthday party, and
Yeah.
my dad said, "Whose party is this?" And my mother's just like, "Yeah,
I tell my writing students, I want you to tell me the last time you saw a person wearing orange. And they stop for a minute and they go, "Monday, one of the kids came on the bus. Tell me the last time you saw popcorn popped." And they go, "Oh, at the movie theater." I said, "Why did you store that stuff?
yeah,
Why is all that in your brain? You realize that camera's been running all day?
collecting info, yeah,
What are you going to do with that info?" The most amazing thing is you can go into those little rooms and there's trigger words that'll bring that back. I say baby crying. Your mind working? When's the last time you saw a baby cry? And your mind just goes there. Well, if all that's there, why aren't you using it?
Right.
Could you imagine what it would be if you knew how to use all that you've collected?
You make it sound like a superpower. That's it.
It is a
No,
superpower,
I know.
and
It is.
everyone has it.
Yeah.
It's a superpower that you possess. Why aren't you using it?
Well, and that's where good poems as models can come into play, where you
Yep,
read a
that's
poem
right.
And then we're not going to analyze this and
Yep.
tease
You
out
say, "I
what
could
it
do that."
means. You say, all right, what did it remind you of? What's an idea? What's a memory that came up?
Yeah.
Start with that.
That's right. And what do you want to do with it? The kids say to me, "Oh, Mr. Dacquino, how long does a poem have to be?"
Yeah.
I said, "Long enough to cover the subject."
Yeah.
Does it have to be funny? Do you want it to be? Mm-hmm. It could be funny. It could be sad. It could be angry. It could be anything you want it to be. What emotion do you want to share with your reader? Whatever it is.
Yeah.
If it's right, if you feel it's right. What is it that you want to say? When I put up a slide of a dead rat, what comes to your mind?
Yeah, keep mentioning this dead rat.
Yeah.
So you got a lot of good work out of that?
Oh, I got a lot of good work out of it, because what happened were, one kid would write about the family who is crying for this dead rat that died. Another saying that miserable vermin is out of the way.
Right.
They've
invented a whole life for this rat.
So it's each of us has a different point of view. Give me your point of view there, Jack.
All right. So I was kind of doing old and new and sort of imagine future, but you reminded me. This actually was a poem I wrote when I was teaching. I often wrote with my students and would write, at least drafts of poems, stealing any time I could to write. So we read a poem by Anne Sexton called "Young," and I think this poem only just starts from her title, but I probably stole other things from it as well. It's called "Old." 1,000 yawns from now, when I'm a bent question mark, and the children are busy, and a push of a buzzer summons the night nurse, I will drag my oxygen tank trolley, resistant like a leashed mutt across sticky linoleum, to peek between drawn blinds and squint to find Orion, the Big Dipper, and Polaris, and remember a beach in Rhodes where stars littered the sky like luminescent river stones. So close we could pluck them from the heavens, offer them to each other, and the universe seemed like our lives to roll on forever. We had few questions, and the sky seemed full of answers, some hurtling like arrows into the future.
Nice.
Thanks.
So, you write when?
Well, now I write every morning I try to write for 2 hours every morning before stuff gets in the way. Before I would write when I had a few minutes here or had a few minutes. Part of the reason I was in writing groups is that gave me a deadline. And I'd say, oh man, I got a writing group meeting on Thursday. I better write something.
Yeah, I began working on a thing called the writer's profile. And I tried to explain to my writers that different writers have different profiles. Mm-hmm. I, for example, write at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm writing. When I'm not writing, I don't. Yeah. So when I do write, I like the morning. I like the middle of the night. Yeah. My wife is sleeping. The phone's not ringing. Nobody's at the door. I can't do anything else. Nobody's up.
Right.
So it's a good time to get a good block of writing in.
Yeah.
And I don't set any time. Sometimes I'll write from 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Sometimes have breakfast and write again. Right. Sometimes only write for an hour. And it was very surprising to me when I was really getting into this whole writing thing that people are different. Yep. And what I tell writers is you need to find out what you write best in. Go put your pajamas on. Maybe when you're wearing your pajamas, you will write better.
You're inspired.
Because you're
your muse.
Yeah, you're comfortable. Or maybe in the library. Or maybe in the park.
But I think a lot of things are written in the back of my head while I'm doing something else. So that time that I'm sitting down writing is just sort of
pre-writing.
If inspiration arrives, or I'm maybe more purposefully looking at something. But then I'll be tossing a line in the back of my head in yoga class when I'm supposed to be emptying my brain. I'm actually
when I first got married. My in-laws didn't know me very well. My mother-in-law didn't. I would go there for Sunday dinner, and I'd sit in the chair, and she'd look over at me and say, "Stop writing!" And I'd say, "I'm not." She said, "Yes, you are."
Yeah. She knew, huh? She must have been a writer. How'd she know that?
And and she knew darn well that my mind was back on the book I had been doing before.
But sometimes it helps if it's actually behind my conscious brain that I'm better at solving problems
Yeah.
with a poem. And that's why I went to poetry. My own children got to a certain age where I was just always driving them there. I coached soccer and basketball for at least one team every season for 16 years. I didn't have time to sit down and keep a novel in my head, but I could write poems.
And that's why it's difficult for kids.
Yeah.
They come to English for 43 minutes.
Yeah.
And in 43 minutes, they have to write a poem.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
By the time I introduce the lesson and get them started, how unfair.
By the time they get chemistry out of their brain, like whatever class they were in before, and they finally get to
and the one
place.
that they have to go to,
Right.
and lunch, and
Yeah.
the kid next
Well,
to
I've
them.
gone back. I went back the last couple of years to doing free writing at the beginning of class as a transition. It kind of tied in with a lot of emotional
'Cause it
intelligence
gets the
stuff I was doing.
engine warmed up.
Get here, get your feet on the floor here. Don't worry about where it goes. No one, you don't have to share it with anyone.
Writing
And then-
is a process.
Right.
It's a process.
But you need to be present for, and mostly they're-
Absolutely.
got all this other stuff.
Well, I got
going
bad news for you, Mr. Jack.
Uh-oh.
We've got about 2 minutes. So
2
you can
minutes?
Stick in another poem
All
real
right.
quick.
Okay. I talked about yoga class, so this came from a yoga class. My yoga teacher is talking about angels again. I focus instead on my downward dog, on my breath, on blocking out the to-do list in my head. But my shoulders are barking. How can she call this a resting pose? I picture her angel, blonde, wan, clad in white, smiling beatifically. What's my angel look like? A squatting figure comes to mind with a catcher's mask, pinstripes, a thick leather glove. He needs a shave. He says nothing of faith, only when you come to a fork in the road, take it. The pain quiets in my shoulders. My teacher speaks of open hearts. My angel says, you can observe a lot by watching. As we shift into plank, the pain in my lower back returns, a small devil poking a sharp fork. My teacher reads angel quotes to distract us. Angels are messengers, she says, but sometimes we misunderstand their language. Mine says, it gets late early out here. I feel like I can hold my plank forever. We shift to crow, balancing knees on elbows. I always wobble when I lift my left toe. The angel inside us can point the way, she says. In baseball, mine says, you don't know nothing. My usual 2-second crow stretches to 10 seconds, then 20 before my teacher tells us to lower our heads and shift into a headstand. I feel good, figure, why not? Drop my head and land with an oomph, a thud. I tip, cry out, tumble, narrowly missing the trim blonde in front of me. If the world were perfect, my angel says, it wouldn't be.
And so, find the angel in you.
There's your mission. Yeah.
Jack,
All right.
I
Thank you very
cannot
much.
thank you enough. You were right on the money. You are an inspiration.
All right.
Keep
You
on
too,
doing what
Benny.
you're doing.
This is
when
great.
you finish your next book, get back.
Come back. Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
love to have you back.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being part of One on One with Mr. Jack Powers.
All right. Thank you all.